The greatest threat to the republic, number one, is mass immigration. I've discussed that quite a bit. But number two, and it's kind of correlated, is feminism. The rise of the crazy, childless cat ladies. And when J.D. Vance, when he brought that up, it really stung. It hit a chord with a lot of people because he hit the target. And it really is a huge problem, not only to America, but to, I think, the world, even Western Europe, definitely, and I would say Japan and Korea. Because, yeah, human history, I believe, and human biology is by definition a patriarchy. It's the man, woman, children. That's the way it's been for 10,000 years or more. And it's not a social construct, it's based on biology. And we have it intertwined in our culture. And the feminists were right about this, about the sexist nature of marriage and our institutions. They're right. It was set up for men to run. And you see that even in our naming traditions. A woman, she's born into a family. She receives the last name of her father. And then her father gives her away, traditionally at a wedding, to her husband. Then traditionally, she takes the last name of her husband. So she becomes part of the family in a hierarchy. So again, originally it's the father, and then the mother, then the children. And then when she starts a family with her husband, it's her husband, herself, and then her children. And this is traditional society. And this all broke apart. It really started to break apart big time in the 70s when they were trying to break up this notion. And in one of the early ways of feminism, we saw an example of such a case of Hillary Clinton. And she was someone that can do it all, right? She can be a wife and a mother and have a powerful law career and then go into politics. Now, there's a little bit of irony here because part of the reason she became successful is because she was married to a man that was very successful. He was the governor of Arkansas. That got her on the board of directors in Walmart. That helped establish her career. But this was the thing. You could have it all. Wife, mother, career, and whatever you want to say about Hillary Clinton, and I think she's the devil herself. She's being eaten by demons, but she did stay loyal to Bill. After all Bill has done, I mean, Bill had, I don't know how many affairs, but she stood by her man and she had a child. So I will give her that. But starting in the 2000s, we got another new archetype that the Democrats really were pushing out. And this wasn't a woman that's a wife, mother, career person. It was a woman that doesn't need a man at all. She's just independent. And she's married not to a man, but to the state. And this became like the ideal woman in the Democrats' notion. Sort of like the Soviets, they had their ideal Soviet man that didn't really care about his family or love or passions. It was all about the state first. And we're starting to see this. And I think we see this embodiment of this type in Kamala Harris. Because Kamala Harris, she did not marry until she was 49 years old, and she's childless. She's part of this demographic. And the interesting thing is, and I got this, there's this site, and I'll link to it, and I've never heard of this author before, and I don't think he's really conservative or even a Republican. His name's David Samuels, and I'll link to it. And he was talking about the rise of what he called bots. And I like that term. And a bot is just someone that is a bride of the state. So that's the term I'm going to definitely steal. I think it came from him. But if you look at the data, never married and childless women between the age of 20 and 45, it is incredibly how much they support the Democrats over the Republicans. And we'll call these bots, okay, women that are married to the state. They support Democrats over Republicans by a whopping 72% to 24%. This is huge. This dwarfs, the Hispanic vote typically goes to the Democrats. but it's not by that great of a margin. So single childless women in this group that the Democrats are promoting are radically, they support the Democrats. Now, if you look at married women, and this is of all races, right? So we're taking all races together. Married women, by contrast, support Republicans by 50 to 45%. So when people say, oh, women are the problem, not married women. Even of all races, married women aren't the problem. It's single, childless women, the bots, the brides of the state, that are the problem. And even it rivals some ethnic demographics. And this all started, if you remember, under President Obama. They had this campaign of an ideal woman, and they had a storybook ad. It was called The Life of Julia. I remember that. I covered a video about that years ago. Sadly, I lost a lot of my old videos because of the YouTube censorship purge, but I remember doing a video about this, and the whole ad was basically explained how Obama's policies, from Head Start, before you even get in kindergarten, to Obamacare, to contraceptive coverage, to Medicare reform, your whole life is from the time you're born until you're in the grave, the government is there to take care of you. And they named this lady The Life of Julia. And that was like the ideal woman here. And then Biden picked up on this theme, but they didn't call her Julia, they called her Linda. And Linda was this working class mother that didn't have a father. There's no father or husband, or she doesn't have a father for her baby, and she doesn't have a husband. She works at a local manufacturing facility as a production worker and earns $40,000 a year. She is pregnant with her son, Leo. Again, no father, just a unwed mother. And this was considered ideal, and Biden was appealing to this demographic. So we have this, the embodiment of Julia and Linda is Kamala. She represents those two women. And it's really amazing how this demographic has grown, because until through the 80s, when we did all these statistics of unmarried women at the age of 40, it was only 6% of women at the age of 40 had never been married. I mean, it was just a common thing. I remember years ago, there used to be a game called Old Maid, and to be an old maid was like a horrific thing for a woman. That means you can't get married in your life. So a woman, that was her natural role. She would leave her father, find a husband, get married, have children, be a mother herself. That was a natural biological role. Not being able to fulfill that role was, there's some reasons for it, and you should be kind to such people, but it wasn't ideal. That wasn't what people strove for. So 94% of women got married before the age of 40. Now it's 22% since recent data. This is the highest ever been. And so it's crazy, this explosion of women that don't have any tie to a man. But they do still have a husband, but the husband is not a man, where they have a family and children. It's the state. And they depend on the state to provide everything. They depend on the state to enforce norms and to make sure people pull up their mask and make sure people don't say bad things. This is why we're becoming this like feminine tyranny that's coming down upon us. But does this make women happy? Is this this radical change that we've never seen in 10,000 years? I mean, there's always been exceptions, but it's never been the common behavior. Is this making women happy? And we have the data here. 56% of liberal American women, so women who call themselves liberal, have been diagnosed with a mental health condition. 56%. Not that they just think they're quirky. They actually been diagnosed. Over the majority of liberal women are technically mentally ill. That's just the data. And you compare this to conservative women, it's just 21%. It's radically different. So this isn't a healthy lifestyle whatsoever. The idea that women should go through life and not get married, not have children within a marriage, not just have illegitimate children, that doesn't help. That just breaks apart society. You see that in the Black community. Most of the kids are illegitimate. You see the results. No matter what racial community, if you're illegitimate, you're going to have problems. We are meant as a species to have man, woman come together and have a family. That's got to be the building block of a civilization. But the Democrats, one of their most radical or extremist policies is not the tax rate or unrealized capital gains tax. I know that's crazy, but their most extreme position is something the early Soviets tried, which is to abolish the family and make everyone dependent upon the state, especially women. And this is really what they are pushing. So Kamala Harris, she represents the bots, the brides of the state. She is the embodiment of it. This is what they want to see, kind of the drunk wineette, childless. This is the ideal that they push on women, but it is destructive to families. It's destructive to women themselves. They're not happy, women that live this lifestyle. They're miserable, and it's destructive to the republic. Excellent essay this guy wrote. I linked to it. You guys could check it out. But yeah, he hits this 100% on. Besides immigration and open borders, the next biggest problem we have is this feminist ideal that is just, it's worse than a nuclear bomb going off in our country. It's devastating. J.D. Vance was right. Talk to you guys later.